Hello, Stephen Blaisdell, CS467, Team Spooky Mansion Mystery, week 4 check-in. So first thing I'll do is show you where the program is at so far, and then I'll talk about the things I've done. So you can see that we can load a new game. I'm just going to print an intro, and this is where the things that I've been working on kind of come into place, which is the simple game mechanics, the room objects, the hero objects that moves around, items that you can pick up and drop, and the state of those, all of those objects. So as you can see from here, we get a long description of the room. We can see that we can move in certain directions, and we see the items that are initialized. Those are items that start out in the room. There's something that you can take from the room, but they started there. We typically wouldn't show that. That's going to be part of the description. You're going to have to discover you can take it, but right now this is just for testing. So for example, if I take test item 0, I can see that it is in my inventory. And then I can also take test item 1, and I can see that it's in my inventory. I can then do things like, and I can see it's removed from those initial items, right? I can move north, and I go to a new room, the dining room. I can drop test item 0, and now that item is showing up in part of the description as a dropped item, and the idea is we would say those are laying on the floor or some kind of thing like that, right? I can also then move south back to the room I was in, and I can see that I'm getting a short description, and there's no items here, right? But if I was to inventory, I can see that I have test item 1 still, so I can drop test item 1 here, and now it's a dropped item in that room. So again, laying on the floor or something like that. So those kind of game mechanics are really what I've been working on. My partners have been working on some really cool stuff. A lot better graphics visuals in one of them, and also the natural language parser. So where I have to use move and take and stuff like that, it's a lot more flexible with those things. We haven't all piled it into one yet, but we are working on that. So if I talk about some of the classes that I've been working on, obviously we have the game class, which is the base class of this. And that looks like this, right? So he has the rooms list. This is basically just a list of all of the rooms, and we're just hopping around this list based on a room ID, right? So this room ID is here, and this is always put into location 0 of the list based on the room ID, right? So we are hopping around this list for navigation, right? And inventory, the inventory object is basically a dictionary, but there's some things we wanted to have, like a capacity and the ability to only fill up so much of that capacity. And also displaying it is a lot easier this way. We don't have to build that all into the game class, right? Then obviously we can start the game. Based on, this is for whether it's a saved game or loaded or new game. We only have new game configured right now because we don't know what those files are going to look like towards the end. So we'll do the load game stuff afterwards. We can initialize the room objects based on right out of here. We can initialize the hero. The hero is very simple at this point. He has a location and a name. But that will become more complicated as we're going to implement some life, a health and stuff like that. And we initialize the inventory based on the JSON load file, right? So the inventory, how many slots are used, and for a new game, no slots would be used, and there would be nothing in it, right? And the player's location is 0. That represents the parlor. He's going to start in the parlor, right? Some movement logic, what basically looks at the hero's location, makes sure he can go in that direction. We're printing that direction based on the dictionary, and then moves to that. He can take items, right? And we delete it from the items list that's in the room and add it to the inventory. So it's basically just pushing and popping these things back and forth. I've implemented this get command thing. This is very rudimentary. The natural language parser is a lot more flexible that my partner has worked on. So once we get that implemented, this should be very easy. I have to use these commands, but in those other versions, we do not. So that is pretty much it. Main is very simple, right? So basically it's game, room, hero, inventory, and then the loading of these files is what I've been working on this week. I'm at about 4 minutes and 45 seconds, so hopefully that showed you enough. Thanks. Bye.